Welcome back to the channel. Racer X here, and today I am with my friends at Courtesy Kia in Tampa. And I realize you guys don't see me film at Kia dealerships very often, mostly because I am a performance channel, but today's car is all about performance, and we're not talking about the Stinger today. This thing is actually considerably faster than any Stinger that's out there on the road, unless it's been highly modified. This is the fastest Kia that has ever come off the assembly line, and it's actually faster than just about every other SUV out there. We'll actually talk about this. If you guys are brand new to my channel, don't forget, hit subscribe right over here in the corner, and off we go.
T-minus 15 seconds.
Really quick, check out this Stinger GT right here. This is actually Ascot green is the color of this. This is a special edition Stinger. You can see kind of the black Brembos right there. This is actually the GT2 Tribute Special Edition, which I think is pretty darn cool. It's a very unique looking Kia Stinger. Of course, 3.3 liter twin turbo on this. Probably my favorite Kia that they've made up to this point, but today's car is even more special. And here is the car that I wanted to show you. That is the 2023 Kia EV6 GT, the fastest Kia ever made, and not by a little bit. 576 horsepower, 545 pound-feet of torque, and it is all electric, a full EV crossover, an absolute missile from Kia. And it doesn't end with that. I mean, it has got a lot of really neat special features, which is why I wanted to show it to you today. I'm gonna try and get this video done before it starts pouring on me, guys. It, of course, is summertime in Florida. That's all it does here is rain, seemingly, in the summertime. But take a look at this SUV. Man, this is an aggressive looking thing. Probably my favorite looking Kia to date, and it is, in fact, a crossover. And I'm not a huge crossover guy, but just look at those 21-inch wheels it has on it. It's got those big 4-piston Brembos on there. Of course, they're painted green, kind of giving you an indication that it is, in fact, an EV. This is all electric, big horsepower on this thing. And of course, take a look at the way they made the nose sweep down on this. It's got a really aggressive look from the front, and kind of what they did with this lower portion here as well. You can see right here, they don't have to have any functional airflow through the front of this vehicle because, of course, there's no traditional engine in it. But the lines on this really do look nice. I kind of like what they did with the body molding down here. Boy, it's getting ready to rock and roll on me here, guys. So take a look right here. Look at the way this car kind of sweeps back. I really do like that. It basically has sort of an understated spoiler up here for airflow as well. Kind of runs right through here. It might be hard to see on camera, but as I back off here, take a look at the lines on this. This is the GT, so this is the top of the line one that they make. And here comes the rain, of course. But I wanted to give you a look at the outside of the car real quick. Let's jump to the inside. Guys, as you can see, it absolutely opened up on me, which I would expect, I guess. But at any rate, right back here, I actually have the car. So I want to show you the inside of this car now that I'm actually in some place that's not going to get me soaking wet. Now, the interior of the Kia EV6 GT is pretty darn nice. You can see the Alcantara here on the door. All these black pops kind of throughout, which look pretty nice. You can see as you get to the inside of the vehicle, I mean, it looks very different than most of the Kias I've ever seen before. First off, take a look at these GT seats. I've never seen a Kia with seats like this. These look more like what you would get from Recaro, and you can tell that this is a GT trim because of all this kind of green stitching and green piping. So that is what the GTs look like. You get a flat bottom steering wheel in this. Of course, you get GT mode, which I'll show you here in a second. But take a look up here. You've kind of got almost like a carbon weave that goes around the dash. You get a couple of digital displays here that work really well. Of course, this has a nice leather feel to it. You get the green stitching on the steering wheel. As you get to the middle, more of kind of that carbon flash type look right here. You get a phone charger. You do get, oh, I mean, it's just very different on the inside of this. First off, first thing you'll notice, just take a look right in here at this big hole they have right there. You got some storage down there. Of course, you've got a USB port down there, but truly an EV. Otherwise, you would have a drive shaft kind of going through here, some different things. this one has a very different look and feel. And of course, take a look at this ambient blue lighting that you get in this particular car, and you can actually change this back from audio to climate. It's kind of neat how that works, but the vents in this do look very space age. It does not look like your standard Kia. And then of course the back seats on this particular car are nice and big as well, and they kind of have that same aggressive look and feel. So I do really like the interior of this particular car. Here is one of the most noteworthy things about the Kia EV6 GT is the price point. $63,000 is how much this car runs for. And I know you might say, well, for a Kia, why would you pay $63,000? Well, wait till I tell you what this competes against and how fast it is, and you might change your mind. Here's the driving position in the 2023 Kia EV6 GT, the top of the line EV6. And it is a very nice place to sit. I really do like the way that the seats feel. As I mentioned, it kind of feels like sitting in a Recaro. They're not Recaros, but it feels just like that. Very sporty, it hugs your body. A really nice flat bottom steering wheel, as you can see, very thick. It's kind of like an SRT type steering wheel. A lot of stitching you can see right here. You do get different drive modes, which I'll show you in a minute, but take a look at kind of the LCD screen, the gauges right here in front of me. Of course, the car is actually running right now, but you'd never be able to tell. These EVs are unbelievably quiet. There's a lot of different ways that you can configure this particular car. Sorry guys, the rain is really coming down right now, but I really do like these pops of blue that kind of come across right here. Here you've got your climate controls, and you can actually change this over. If you hit this, that will actually go over to your audio control. So just a couple of buttons to sort of change things up right here. Dual climate control, as you would expect. Right over here, how you put the car in gear. You've got your electronic parking brake, as you would expect. You can change your camera from the front to the back right here. You actually turn this on with a traditional push button start, which is kind of nice. And you can see it's kind of got some ambient lighting in here as well that are that's very appealing. Now, I want to show you something really quick. When you push your drive modes, you can see things change. You've got an eco drive mode right here. And then of course, as we go down, you can go into normal. Go into sport, it gets a lot more aggressive. You can see the hints of red. Now at the bottom, you actually have torque there. And then of course on right here, if you push the GT button, everything goes over to GT and it becomes unbelievably aggressive in GT mode. Even though it is green, that is basically pissed off mode for this particular car. You can see kind of the torque meter there at the bottom, and the whole personality of this car changes to go into full business mode. That is pretty darn cool. I also think it is pretty trippy that you've got all this storage under here. And like I said, one of the things, the major drawbacks about, say, like some of the Teslas and stuff that I've sat in before is they're so mundane, so boring on the inside. This particular car doesn't feel like that at all. It feels pretty nice. Of course, there are lots of different trim levels in these Kias. It doesn't matter if you're talking about like a Rio, a Forte, a Stinger, a K5, something like this, an EV6. You'll have like a base level trim, and then oftentimes you'll go up to like a GT line type trim. Oftentimes it sort of has the same amount of power, but they'll do some upgrades, upgraded seats and, you know, upgraded wheels, things of that nature. When you jump up to the GT, that typically makes more power than the other trims do. And this one, of course, no exception. As I mentioned, 576 horsepower, 545 pound-feet of torque. When you jump down to like the GT line version of this, or what they call the Wind, that is 330 horsepower, 446 pound-feet of torque. So significantly more in the GT version of this, despite the fact that they're both 800-volt systems. So you kind of have to keep that in mind. But the one thing about it is those other ones get better range, and that is kind of the big knock on this particular car. I didn't want to not address this, but the range on this car is about 200 miles with a full 100% charge, which by today's standards really isn't all that much range. So if you're into driving like long commutes, all that kind of stuff, the range thing may be an issue for you. But in terms of performance, this thing is it really favors well. Let me tell you all about it. Now, when you start digging into the performance numbers on the EV6, you start to realize just how incredible this thing is for the money. For example, Kia says it does 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds, but I found 3 different publications, none of them affiliated, that all say this thing does it in more like 3.2 seconds. And that puts it in a very elite club, and a club all by itself when it comes to price. And its closest competitor is probably like the Mach-E Mustang GT, which still isn't a Mustang as far as I'm concerned, but a very nice vehicle. And 3.8 seconds is what that vehicle does 0 to 60, and I have a performance version which is like 68,000, so it's of course more money, and it does like 3.5 seconds 0 to 60, and of course all-wheel drive just like this one. But this is faster than those and for less money. Pretty impressive. As a matter of fact, if you really look at what this compares to from a performance perspective, you have to start looking at things like the Lamborghini Urus and the Porsche Cayenne and stuff like that. And they're like 3.1 seconds 0 to 60. This is 3.2. So basically the same time, and this does it for way, way less money. Even the Durango Hellcat is slower than this 0 to 60. So it really is impressive when you start to look at just how incredibly fast this is for under 65,000 bucks. One thing that is pretty cool about EVs, because I know so many people just hate EVs. If it's electric, just get it out of here. Never gonna do it. I hate everything about it, everything it represents. I hate the charging and all. Look, I get that argument to a degree. I'm a performance enthusiast, so if it's fast and it's fun to drive, I'm going to at least give it a chance. And that's why I wanted to review this one. And of course, on a day like today where it's pouring its ever-living butt off, if I was driving, say, like a Scat Pack Charger or a Scat Pack Challenger, which makes 100 less horsepower than this, I would never attempt to review it in the rain. But being an all-wheel drive EV, it simply doesn't care about rain. It's pretty much just as fast in the rain as it is in dry conditions, even with these like 255 tires on all four corners. It's really impressive what these EVs can do in inclement weather. They're basically impervious to DEA. They just do not care about atmospheric conditions at all. And when I'm driving around on this, I have the most confidence that it's not going to spin really at any speed for the most part. Yeah, I mean, it might spin a little bit out of control. Of course, you can't stop all that much more effective, but the way that it goes in the rain is actually it's pretty commendable. So the thing with the Kias is they're going to give you a trim on the inside that isn't going to be super bougie like a Mercedes or like a Bentley or anything like that. I mean, this is a Korean car, and they've come a long way with their quality over the years, but you're still not going to get super high quality materials. You're not going to get all the crazy, super nice wood grains and this has got some plastic bits in it and stuff like that. And that's what you're going to get from Kia. But the design of these cars has come a really long way. And of course, the performance on these cars has come a really, really long way. And they've come to a point where they make vehicles that are pretty darn fast, very reliable. It comes with one of the best warranties in the business, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty on these vehicles, just like the Hyundai vehicles. And I'm sitting here looking at this awesome heads-up display in this, a very comfortable car to sit in. They've done their best to make this thing very, very sporty. And so yeah, it basically performs like a vehicle that costs 2 or 3 times the price. On a lot of the articles that I looked at, this was in the top 5 fastest crossovers in the world. I think it was like 5th or 6th in the world. We're talking about some of these things costing $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 in some instances, and they're basically being compared to a Kia that costs $63,000. Think about that for a second. Then you really start to understand what a performance bargain this vehicle is. And as I mentioned, this makes all other Kia vehicles that have ever been made look really slow. These EVs are really trippy just how quiet they are, but the ride quality on this thing is actually really, really nice. I'm very impressed with the ride quality of this particular vehicle. Yeah, it's almost too quiet for my liking, being somebody that likes to hear an engine, and I kind of like to hear just a little bit of noise in the cockpit, and maybe that's just the old school racer in me. It is eerily quiet in this thing, but I do like the fact that it has sort of the traditional push start on it. I do also like the fact it's like some of the Teslas that I've driven. You go to let off of the gas and then the thing like automatically starts braking and slowing you way down. This actually feels a lot like driving a normal car. It doesn't feel so rubber bandish, as I like to say. It actually does feel a lot like driving just a normal car to me, especially compared to a lot of the other EVs that I've driven. There are cameras all over this car. I mean, you got to get like a 360 view of the car. Obviously, when you go to back up, the backup camera on this is absolutely fantastic. And then, of course, there are sensors in the front, so you can actually see what's in front of you. Even right now, I'm getting ready to turn right, and it's got a camera that pops up on here, letting me see both what's to the side of me and behind me. It's kind of neat technology. Now, one of the really trippy things about this car and really the whole situation is you could be out there rolling around in your 717 horsepower Challenger Hellcat, and you roll up next to an EV6 GT, a Kia, at a dig. That is a race that does not favor you. And that is a really weird thing. Just to think about a Kia being able to just trash a Hellcat from a dig. And yes, I realize this makes less horsepower than a Hellcat, technically. When you look at the torque, it's a little bit less torque than a Hellcat makes, but you have to remember, this is all-wheel drive. It could care less about DA. It could care less about the rain. It could care less about any of it. And especially off the line, there is no way you would be able to keep up with this. This runs 3.2 on the street. And who would have thought a Kia would be able to have performance numbers like this? But you know what? It does. So just be mindful when you see one of these out there, even from a roll, because it is instant horsepower. I've always said that the thing about electrics, and love it or hate it, is the fact that you do not have to wait on the power at all. You basically get all of your torque the millisecond you want to hit the gas, and the power just comes in like crazy. Right now I'm rolling along in the rain at 38 mile an hour. All I have to do is just give it a little bit of gas and off it goes. And that is the thing about these. It makes you frustrated almost if you're an internal combustion person, but formidably fast. Boy, this rain is absolutely relentless, but I have the utmost confidence in the way this car drives, the way it performs. I mean, I'm just rolling through puddles and everything like that, but even going around corners and stuff like that, just a little bit of gas. Something should not be able to accelerate the way that this thing does in inclement weather. It's just crazy to me. Like a lot of other high-end EVs, this one features regenerative braking. Say regenerative braking. Anyway, when you hit the brakes, it actually will charge your battery, which is another nice little feature. One last little blast here. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, the performance enthusiast in me wants to not like EVs, and really is not a big fan of Kia in general. It's just not really my speed, right? But you cannot ignore what this vehicle is. And as I'm driving it around, coming out of a corner, good gracious, in the pouring rain nonetheless, this vehicle just does not care. And you can feel how incredibly fast this thing is. I'm really impressed with this Kia. I actually really like this car. I realize $63,000, it's still not chump change, at least for most people, but at the end of the day, if you compare it to everything else on the market, everything that this vehicle does, this is the best performance value vehicle in the world. And that is the truth of it. Do the math, guys. Do the numbers. Do the research. Find something else that has performance numbers like this from the factory for less money. I challenge you. So hit me up in the comments, guys. Let me know if you can find something that performs better than this for the money. I would love to hear it. Like I said, I will go ahead and put the articles that I referenced to do the research on this particular car. I'll put those in the section below so you guys can read up on that if you like. But there's no denying the fact that this EV6 is pretty darn cool. Quick shout out to the guys at Courtesy Kia in Tampa for letting me borrow their beautiful EV6. I love this matte gray paint on this. 5 different colors they have in the EV6 GT. But if you've never had a chance to drive one of these, I would definitely encourage you, just go check it out so you can see what I'm talking about. I realize there's a lot of people that won't give it a chance because it is an EV, like I mentioned, but I do really like this car, and I am impressed with it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and I will catch you on the next one. So until then, Racer X.